future leaders of China. The first generation born under the one-child policy, the 80后, post-80s, the little emperors and empresses, they will be leading China in just about 10 years' time. So the world often asks, what does the future hold for China? Will there be a major shift in paradigm, in mentality? Will the transition be smooth? Will progress be smooth? Well, they may fail to realize that the biggest change, potential discontinuity, is going to occur when power is transferred to that generation. Radically different, cyber-connected, hyper-educated, global citizens of the world. So today, 70% of Chinese youth is online. They live to imbibe information. We send about 400,000 students abroad to get a foreign degree every year. They are open-minded. They also have some peculiar consumption habits. The speed with which they're ready to whip out their credit cards, or their parents' credit cards, is uncanny. They will turn China from being a global seller to a global buyer. So change is going to happen because they will be on stage. And so the world should just be more relaxed because of it. But there's something peculiar about the only child generation. And it's not because China has changed so much, not just because of it. It's because there's special, unique products of the one-child policy. So I am a 80后, post-80s only child. I'm also an academic economist. So I thought, well, I'd better study this subject matter a little bit more, thinking that I have some first-hand information or first-hand insight. And so my French co-authors and I have found that there's some unintended and pretty significant consequences to the one-child policy. Of course, apart from the main goal, which is to reduce population growth, which it was successful at. The first thing that we have found is that it led to an accelerated human capital accumulation. Now, the story is very simple. The reason is simple. You used to have many children, 3 or 4 in urban areas, and now you can only have 1. So 96% of urban households on average have just one child. So when parents trade in quantity, they're going to raise their quality, which is why every one of us got a lot of education investment. So did you know that actually about 25% of household expenditure every year, on average, is spent on educated one child, one teenager, one only child? 25% goes into education. But if you look at twins, okay, twins born under the one-child policy, luckily you're allowed to keep your twin, the twins get only about half that much when it comes to their teenage years. Right? So this makes sense. The fewer children you have, the more education investment they got. So in fact, China's GDP per capita is still pretty low. It ranked 90-something, on the same level of almost Albania. But its higher education attainment has surpassed many rich countries. Second unintended consequence, it's a golden era to be a Chinese woman. Why? Reason is simple. We are daughters, so we're raised as an only daughter, but we're also raised as a son. Education has become gender blind. You're going to educate your child no matter whether it's a daughter or a son. So the result, after the one-child policy in the 80s, the higher education attainment rate between girls and boys closed. The gap closed. And in fact, the returns to schooling for girls are now actually higher than the returns to schooling for boys in China. So women are much more educated. But not only are Chinese women more educated, they also have greater bargaining power. And the reason is that the large gender imbalance, for now, it's about, every 117 little boys being born, there are only 100 girls. So the large gender imbalance, arguably related to the one-child policy, has led to a scramble for wives. 娶妻之战. Okay? And also, research has shown that families with sons start to save up a lot in order to raise the eligibility of their son in a marriage market that's become increasingly competitive. So everyone is saving for the son, and competition of saving breeds more competition of saving. So I was thinking, now it's probably better to have a girl now, right? We used to have this bias for having sons. It's probably better to have girls now because everyone else is saving for you. So this is the unintended positives of the one-child policy. And these things are going to help ease a bit of the economic challenges that China will be facing in the next 10 years. But there's a darker side to this as well. I'm sure everyone has been aware of the recent suicides that have swept across the country. Jumping out of the window has become a popular activity among the Chinese youth. 13-year-old jumps out of the window because his mother is going to have a second child. 13-year-old jumps out of the window because he's criticized by his teachers. High school student jumps out of the window because he and his parents could not agree on a major he's going to take when he goes to an American university. It's become so commonplace that new schools being built around are built into cages. No possible room for jumping out activities. But what this reveals is that there's a common problem that we all share. Difference is only to a matter of degree. And that problem is this enormous psychological pressure. Pressure not only to perform, but pressure to cave into our parents' wishes and desires, which are often in conflict with our own. Now, the world sees us as selfish, spoiled, egocentric, but they don't see the hidden price behind being an only child. This steep hidden price behind the love and attention and care that our parents never fail to remind us of all the time, right? And that price is that the destiny is often not in our own hands. Because on the one hand, we are allured by this modern way of life, the modern way of thinking, the opportunities to which we have access now, in large part thanks to our parents. On the other hand, we feel obligation and duty. We're an only child. We have no siblings among whom we can share that burden to free ride off. We feel the pressure to answer to their wishes. And they would tell you, we know what's best for you. The parents would tell us, we know what's best for you. We've been through this hardship. We know about life. Be practical. Don't take too many risks. They tell you, don't study literature, study finance. Go get a foreign diploma, but hurry back home and stay close. Do not have a girlfriend or boyfriend in school because that's too distracting for work. Get your degree first, find a stable job, and then contemplate dating. But by the time you're in your mid-20s, you better be married with a child on the way because otherwise you're doomed. So this leaves us about 1 year to find our life's soulmate. Girls, be number one, always, every time. So there we go, we get our degrees. I have a PhD from Harvard. My friend Wei here has a master's from Stanford. Then there's, Beihua, Tsinghua, Beida. All these girls get these degrees. And then they tell us, oh, but you're only girls in the end. Do what you have to do. Settle down. So the golden era that I've illustrated you for Chinese women is only up to the point at which you get your fancy degree, and then we're back to the starting line. There's a mismatch, don't you think? An evolutionary mismatch between society that has changed and the values that have remained outdated. I mean, for all the tiger mothers that we've got, and I know you have one too, they push us to the extreme. They equip us with a world-class education, and they send us to this school and that school and get this skill and that skill. And in the end, they are convinced that we're incapable of making our own decisions, making the right choices. So then, what's this education about? What's the use of tiger mothers if they, in the end, themselves don't believe in the products they've carefully crafted? Now, I'm an only child. I left home when I was 14 to study abroad. My parents gave up everything so that I could have a bright future. They are everything to me, and I am absolutely everything to them. But I face the same struggle as all of you. And the struggle is duty to family or responsibility to myself. But I realized a while ago that because of this generational gap, probably the largest we have seen in Chinese history, that only I knew what was right for me. Only I knew the life that I wanted to lead, the values that I cherished, and the moral code that I wanted to adopt. You see, the world is bedazzled by China's numbers, the numbers that are attached to the country that has seen economic growth, the size of GDP, progress. But behind these figures and numbers is a national psyche that they may fail to comprehend. And it's a psyche that is as important as the institutions and system that has underpinned China's progress. So tomorrow, China tomorrow is going to be in large part shaped by the psyche of our generation, our ethos, our values, and our attitude in life. China's tomorrow is really you. You will be pushing the artistic frontier. You will be creating China's global image. You will be China's pacemaker. Now, there are wonderful things in our culture and tradition that we must preserve. Confucian values and code of ethics that we must revitalize. But we, and the world, needs leaders from China who can think for themselves, take responsibility in their actions, and be creative, not just pragmatic. You are an only child, but you cannot lead China as if it were one too. But you must find siblings in the form of our African brothers and our European sisters. But way before that, you need to rise above that pressure. No matter how difficult it is for current society to understand, you need to put destiny back in your own hands. 我们这一代人有我们自己的理想和追求，虽然我们和上一代是不一样的，但是我们同样是务实的，同样有担当。不同的是，我们是在新的历史条件下来实现我们的价值，执行我们的使命。谢谢。